All right. Hello, everybody. This is Brian Nemhauser, and welcome to the Real Hawk Talk post-game show following the Seahawks 30-24 victory over the Carolina Panthers. The Seahawks climbed to 11-3 on the year, 7-1 away from CenturyLink Field, which sets a franchise record and sets them up for the finish that I think we've all been talking about. So, a lot to go over in this game. Certainly a fair amount of things that were positive, and a number of things that we're going to have frustration with. In the interest of keeping some things, on the sunny side after a victory, we'll start with those. And in order to do that, let me welcome in the fellas. First, we've got Jeff Simmons up there in Toronto at Real Jeff Simmons on Twitter. How you doing, Jeff?
I'm good, man. Sweated another game out, but they're somehow this team went 7-1 on the road. It really makes no sense.
Okay. Not a great start for staying positive, but we'll work on that. Let's at least try for 5 minutes to be positive.
7-1. That's positive.
Yeah. Nathan Ernst at NathanE11 on Twitter. Welcome, Nathan. How you doing?
Pretty good. I was surprised that we had the prompt to stay positive. I thought this was overall a pretty good game. Maybe a little closer down the stretch than it maybe should have been, but Carolina never even got the ball back with a chance to win. So I thought it was pretty comfortable. So I'm doing good.
All right, good. Well, let's start going round table. Pick 1 to 2 things that stood out for you guys as good news for the Seahawks. Obviously the victory, obviously the road win. What else? And Nathan, since you're feeling pretty good, what was the thing? I know you watched the second half mostly, which was not the best half. No. What stood out to you?
Yeah, unfortunately I didn't see all the first half. So, but the offense got back on track for the most part, especially in the first half. This is kind of a weird game where it kind of turned out that the first half was the half that really mattered, and the second half was just playing a little bit of keep away. And I mean, I'm all for them, keeping their foot on the gas and trying to put up a bunch of points, which I think they really kind of did for the most part. I think in the second half there was just some weird stuff with play calling, like that Josh Gordon toss and stuff like that. That long ball to DK on a third and short. So kind of some weird stuff with that. But like overall, I think that the offense kind of got back on track a little bit. Russ had a great first half. So all of that I think was a big positive.
All right. I'm going to go next. I would call out I won't take the obvious one because I'm guessing Jeff will want to go here, but I think I'll call out 2. One, Chris Carson had a phenomenal game. Didn't put the ball on the ground. 24 carries, 133 yards, over 5.5, a carry, 2 touchdowns. And, when the team needed to run out the clock at the end, he was a big weapon there. So I thought that was one piece I would call out. And the other, this defense actually managed to play pretty well without a lot of starters. And then not only were they missing a lot of starters, but then they lost Bobby, they lost Quandre Diggs, and they still managed to for the most part hold up those last 2 drives. I think the combination of probably playing some prevent defense and all the injuries caught up to them. But 3 turnovers, 3 takeaways for this team again is pretty impressive. All right, Jeff, you.
Yeah, to build on what Nathan was saying before, I think the biggest and definitely the most encouraging sign coming out of the game was Tyler Lockett. And we spent a lot of time just talking the last couple of weeks about how Russell's great performances were kind of correlated with Lockett getting hurt and him kind of disappearing from the offense. I thought Lockett today was the best player on the field, and he could have even had a bigger game. He broke open for that deep pass in the third quarter that should have been, a 50, 60-yard touchdown. Lockett finished with 120 yards. That 3rd and 11 play at the end of the game was massive because that would have given Carolina quite a bit of time. And I just thought he was back to normal. He hit the deep shot early. He was getting open. He looked fast. And that was the kind of player we haven't seen the last month. And with Russ going 3 for 3 on their first scoring drives to get touchdowns and Lockett kind of getting back to normal, that's definitely the most encouraging sign, because you guys hit on all the other big ones coming out of that game. But to me, that was really exciting because we haven't seen that.
That's where I thought you'd want to go. I mean, 8 catches and 9 targets for Tyler Lockett, a long of 44 yards, 120 yards on the day. Certainly his best game in a few weeks, and he looked sprightly. He was moving around well. He just looked like Tyler Lockett. So I think that's certainly a big one. I think Josh Gordon's worth calling out. Again, only 1 target, but that catch was remarkable. Nathan, have you seen that catch yet?
I haven't yet.
Holy cow!
Right now.
It is one of the greats this year. 58 yards, deep downfield. Russ rarely overthrows on deep passes. He's usually a guy that kind of underthrows and gives his players a chance to jump up and high point it. But on that play, Russ really gave it all he could, and Josh Gordon went and got it. I mean, it was hard to see on TV all day because of the shadows. You know, you couldn't quite tell sometimes who caught the ball, but he went and got it on his fingertips, full stretch. That was amazing. And you know, a little confusing about why he can't get more targets, but good to stay positive. So 1 catch for 58 yards for Josh Gordon in 1 target. You know, and I thought when Jacob Hollister was given a chance, I thought he had a nice day today. Ran hard, you know, 3 catches and 3 targets. So to Nathan's point, Russ's final line is 20 for 26, 286 yards, 11 yards per throw, 2 touchdowns. The first time he's had 0 interceptions in 5 weeks. So nice to see that. And 137.7 rating. So, you know, I think that's a nice game for Russell. I think we all feel like he could have, you know, added on a couple more touchdowns maybe and made it a great game and made this a laugher, but it didn't quite happen. What about on defense? You know, Jeff, any players or plays that stood out to you in the positive sense?
I thought KJ obviously he was around the ball today, and we've been pretty hard on KJ this year, and I thought that was definitely his best game of the season. Given all the players they had missing on the defensive line, and it got worse throughout the game, I thought he was good. I thought Bradley McDougald had a really good game today. I thought he was always around the ball. I thought he made some good plays in coverage, good plays in the run stopping. And I liked what I saw in, I don't know how many snaps he had, and he dropped that pick 6, but I thought Ugo showed me something. I saw he made a big tackle early on McCaffrey. The more he plays, the more I want to see him get more snaps, if that makes sense.
Yeah, Nathan, I don't think you saw this, but your guy, RoShaun Griffin, had another sack. Are you on there, Nathan?
Right here. I couldn't find my mute button. I didn't see it, but I did hear about it, so that's awesome. I would add Puna, I thought, had a great game.
Yeah,
that's a great one.
Yeah. And then I didn't watch him all that closely. I feel like he's still very hit or miss. He doesn't have a lot of answers for once he gets kind of eaten up by a offensive lineman, but Shaquem Griffin is still super active, super high energy. He's doing everything, and that it was one of the ones where it forced a pick, right? It was one of the KJ picks. I think maybe the last KJ pick where he flies into the left tackle, spins. The left tackle starts, or it must have been the right tackle. Right tackle falls over. He kind of slips off the guard who tries to pick him up, and then he gets the pressure. I don't remember if that was one of those that turned into a pick or not. I think it was. So Shaquem's still showing some things here and there too, so that's always fun.
Yeah, I don't know about you guys, but pass pressure, you could call out. They only had 1 sack and 3 quarterback hits, and you'd be like, oh man, the pass pressure was bad again. The Panthers' game plan was, I don't think Kyle Allen threw more than like 3 passes over 5 yards downfield or over 10 yards downfield until the 4th quarter, you know, at the tail end. Like, they were just, every pass was a screen or, you know, a quick bubble out to the receiver. You know, there weren't a lot of plays to get pressure. And I thought when they got to obvious passing situations, I thought the pass rush was decent. We even had an LJ Collier pressure. I don't know if it's going to show up in the stat sheet, but I saw him get into Kyle Allen's face, which has been a rarity for Mr. First round pick, LJ Collier. Yeah, interesting. Let's talk about Cody Barton for a second. So Cody Barton subbed in today for Michael Kendricks and finishes the day with 10 tackles, tied for Bobby Wagner for the team lead. He actually had a quarterback pressure that Kyle Allen was able to get the ball over him and complete it to McCaffrey, but it was still a good pressure. But he had mixed results today. Jeff, where were you on Cody Barton?
I think that's a sign that counting stats are not the best way to measure a player. Because I thought he had a really tough game. I thought even in the first series of the game, I think their first scoring drive, he let McCaffrey blow by him on a run. He got burned in coverage, and just like kind of the perfect play to sum up his game when he got stiff-armed and knocked over by Kyle Allen. Like, that's as bad as it gets. I thought he struggled. He had some plays where he got in the quarterback's face on blitzes, but in coverage and against the run, he still looks like a guy who has a lot of growing to do. And if Kendricks is going to be out for a while, they need him to play better. It's simple as that.
Yeah, I don't know if you had any thoughts on Cody Barton, Nathan, but also talk a little bit about Bobby Wagner and KJ Wright, other linebackers in this game.
Yeah, I mean, Barton's still figuring it out. I mean, the thing that's concerning to me is that he's not a stopper when he tackles guys. Like, obviously, he got stiff-armed into oblivion by a quarterback today, so that was real rough. But, like, there was just other times I noticed that when, he's making tackles, he's falling backwards and not always, just stuffing the runner or the ball carrier. So, I mean, it's, game 2 for him. Or I guess he's played earlier too, but, full time, this is really the first couple games he's gotten into it. So we'll see how that goes. There's a lot of time there. Yeah, somebody on Twitter pointed out that Seattle gave up more points with Bobby Wagner out of the game than in the game. And they put up 30 on Luke Kuechly's defense. There's a little bit of a difference with Luke Kuechly going up against Russell Wilson and Bobby getting to go up against Kyle Allen. But yeah, I think more proof. This game is more proof that Bobby Wagner is hands down a better linebacker than Luke Kuechly could ever dream to be.
In a game when Luke Kuechly had 17 tackles and was basically the entire Panthers defense.
Hey, you asked for a positive spin.
I know. I like it. It's true though. Kuechly was like their only guy today. It felt like he was the only guy making plays. So I guess, we didn't mention KJ Wright. 2 interceptions today, had a nice tackle on Christian McCaffrey. I thought it was one of KJ's better games in a while. I thought Bobby actually was having one of his better games before he got hurt. That interception was really impressive. So I thought, he led the team and tied the team lead with 10 tackles.
You guys want some breaking news?
Yes.
So this is via Cable Thanos in our group chat. Quandre Diggs was seen leaving the field in a walking boot.
Oh shit. God. That sounds like a high ankle or something like that.
Yeah, I don't know. Not great.
Yeah, they're down 5 starters right now.
Post-game show with Pete Carroll. We will keep people updated on that. So yeah, let's talk for a second. You got to talk about the injuries on defense at this point. Seahawks were missing Jadeveon Clowney, Ziggy Ansah, Shaquille Griffin, Michael Kendricks. Those were 4 starters they were missing. Then they lost Bobby Wagner and Quandre Diggs. Anyone else that I'm missing?
I think Al Woods got a little hurt, banged up too.
He played, yeah.
Yeah.
So, I mean, that is 6 of your 11 starters.
Oh, yeah. Sorry, Jimmy G just got crushed.
Good. I've got to stop everything here because this is just for Nathan and Evan, who's not here. Pete Carroll starts by saying there wasn't a sweeter play than going for it on 4th down and getting that touchdown.
Cool. Let's hope it's the sign of things to come. Because I'm sure we'll get to that at some point. Man, it's a problem. Do we want to get to it now?
Yeah, go ahead.
All right. So we've rehashed this a million times. It's dumb that the way they do this. They need to be way more aggressive. I think it's really bewildering too when they take so much pride in like being a running team and like, oh, sometimes you got to run it into an 8-man box or whatever Shoddy said that one time, and like they want to be tough and physical and then impose their will, and then a 4th and 1 comes around and they're running scared. And so that part of it, I mean, again, we've talked about all that a million times, but what drove me crazy about this game was that they don't seem to have any coherent approach to these 4th downs, right? And you saw that when there was just general confusion. It looked like between whether they were going to go for it or not on the earlier 4th down, 4th and 1. And then they call a timeout and they have to talk about it. Like whatever they are doing on 4th down, like it should be repeatable and it should be known. Like it shouldn't be something that they have to talk about every single time. They should have a philosophy, an approach, and a process, and that should kind of be it. Like you can really break this stuff down and put it on a piece of paper, and like you can just look at it and see, okay, in these situations we go for it, in these situations we don't. And there's always going to be a little bit of what your gut tells you and the game and all that, yada yada. But like it shouldn't take that much thinking. They shouldn't be wasting timeouts on these 4th down decisions. That more than I'm used to them not going for it on 4th down. I was really glad to see that they went for it on the later one, especially since with the challenge, I didn't think they were going to. I thought that's why Pete challenged it, because I thought he was just going to line up and kick a field goal again. So good on them for doing that. But like, I don't know, however they're calibrated in terms of, aggressiveness and going for it on 4th down, it should be a much easier decision in the moment for them to make than it seems like it is.
Yeah, I don't disagree, Nathan. I mean, so many folks are, I think are used to me just like being a defender of the coaching staff. And I honestly just try to be objective in it. I don't think there's any real defense for the way that they're approaching their 4th down play calling. And they should have gone for it earlier in that game. They had fourth down near the goal line and they kicked a field goal. Pete called a timeout so that they could kick a field goal. I mean, it was bad. It was really, really bad. So it's frustrating. They need to be better. I do want to update folks on news as it's coming in. Pete Carroll says that Bobby Wagner sprained his ankle. I'm not sure how bad it is. Also says that Quandre Diggs has a sprained ankle and that it is worse than Bobby Wagner's. Only Bob Condotta says this. I don't know if other people say it, but it says that Diggs' sprained ankle could keep him out a little while. Don't know what that means. Not great, but that is the update. And he also said that Jadeveon Clowney was violently sick, quote unquote, on Friday and couldn't travel. So, I'm okay with Clowney missing. I think Kendrick's, hamstring, soft tissue. Hopefully he's better. I think Shaquille Griffin also with a hamstring. This is a game that the Seahawks could afford to win without those guys, and they did. But look, I think they need those guys if they want to win, against the 49ers for sure. I think they need all hands on deck. I think even missing a Quandre Diggs in that game against 49ers could be enough, in a game that's going to be really tough to win. So,
if they are losing, if they're out all the guys that they were out going into this game, and then the guys like Bobby and Diggs are hurt, the guys that got hurt coming out of this game are also hurt next week, that Arizona game gets a little dicey.
I agree.
That game all season long.
Yeah, where are you on this, Jeff? I mean, I guess I look at the Cardinals defense and say the Seahawks should score a bunch of points. I looked at this Panthers defense and say the Seahawks should score a bunch of points. And technically they scored 30, but it felt like it should, like if they were playing, the Seahawks were playing well, it should have been 40.
Yeah, no, I think you guys both covered it well. I think all of a sudden a game that looked like a sure win now gets a lot less comfortable. And they go into this game out 4 defensive starters, or was it 5? And now it's over half your defense might not be able to play next week. And Seattle isn't, if Cody Barton's still learning curve, and who takes over for Diggs? Is it Delano Hill? Is it Blair? Like, that's a game you'd like to see Blair get some time and get some run and see how they do. But when Diggs was out, it affected McDougal earlier this year. If BBK has to play middle linebacker against Kyler Murray in space, that's a tough game. Kyler Murray is one of the fastest players in the NFL. And you're taking out not only your best tacklers, but some of your fastest players and your pass rush. So, yeah, that game is a lot less of a sure thing if they're starting 6 backups next week.
Yeah, I mean, I think that's. I mean, Bobby Wagner and Quandre Diggs, those guys are pretty key in that game, for sure. Pete Carroll did say just now that Michael Kendricks and Ziggy Ansah have a really good chance to play against Arizona next week. He was less confident about Shaquille Griffin playing. So, honestly, I think that game's going to be about the Seahawks offense as much as it's going to be at the Seahawks defense. And you have to hope that there's enough there that they can get the win. But you're right. I don't think, look, if the Seahawks had won this game, it was 30-10 at one point, right? It's not that much different than when it was 34-17 or whatever it was against the Vikings. Like, there was a chance for them to win this comfortably. And once again, they didn't. And I don't think anyone can feel confident going into any specific game right now. And this team's 11-3. It's crazy. They're 11-3, franchise record 7-1 on the road. They won every 10 a.m. game they played this season. And they weren't all easy. So it is a weird season. There's no doubt about it. There's no way to say any other way. But, I mean, I do think, like, Russell missed maybe one throw today, I would say. It was that pass to Lockett. Otherwise, he was better today. Like, he was much closer to his normal efficient self. He took a couple sacks again that I really felt like, especially that one near the goal line at the end of the first half, was a super risky play, and you just want to see him throw the ball away. I don't know if he's ever going to be that guy. He just always wants to extend the play. But, you know, if Russell Wilson's going to play well and they're going to run the ball well, this offense is usually going to score more than 27 points a game. They've proven that all year. They've scored more than 27 in almost every game this year. So, you know, it's really a question of, do we think the Seahawks can hold the Cardinals, you know, under 27 points? How would you guys feel about that?
Okay, I guess. Like, I don't know. It's hard to know what to believe on. The Seahawks are just such a weird team. I don't know how to answer. I don't know how to. I know everyone just wants to say it's luck, and probably a lot of it is. But, like, the script is the same every game. Like, they start like crap, then they go up big, and you finally think you can get comfortable, and then they make it uncomfortably terrible, and they somehow win. And if this keeps happening over and over, I just don't know how to put my finger on it, because they look like they're not a great team. I don't think any measure would indicate they're a great team. The record is the only one that probably says that, but the way they play just seems like they're capable of losing any one of these games. It's so strange.
Yeah, well, to answer my own question, the Cardinals have scored 27 or more twice in the last 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. Actually, once in the last 7, if I'm looking. No, twice in the last 7 games. And both those games were exactly 27 points. So even as Kyler Murray's been playing better and they've been playing better, that offense is still, you know, struggling to put up a lot of points. There's
not much around him right now.
There isn't. There really isn't. Offensive line's not great. I mean, that defense is really, really bad. You know, they gave up 23 points to the Steelers, which was like the lowest they've given up in a while. They gave up 34 to the Rams, 36 to the 49ers, 30 to the Bucks, 28 to the 49ers, 31 to the Saints. So 33 to the Falcons. So that defense gives up a lot of points. It's not, I don't think, meaningfully better than this Panthers defense, which is really bad. What else? Why, how do you feel about this defense right now, Nathan? Like, do you feel like, well, let me just ask this. I mean, do you feel like the Seahawks have the potential to win the 49ers game the way things look right now?
I mean, it's just about health, right? Like, this defense isn't much different than the one that they went into San Francisco with and beat the Niners with, and that was a really good game. But I mean, they won, and the defense looked pretty good. Now they get them at home, right? But I mean, for me, a lot of this is really riding on Quandre Diggs and his health. If he's out the next couple of weeks, Arizona, I mean, it's kind of whatever. We'll see. Possible trap game. But like, for San Francisco, if they don't have Diggs, then I get real skeptical that this defense can have a good, a really good performance against that team. He's really been like, the offense. You can say this has been a weird season, and in a lot of ways it has. They've way outperformed their point differential and all that, right? But like, parts of it have been very like predictable. Like, for a long time, first 9 weeks of the season, they had an MVP quarterback and a terrible defense, and Russ was enough to get them through. That San Francisco game happens, the defense kind of turns, and that's a lot with Diggs, right? That's when Diggs really starts to get integrated into the defense and all that after the trade and after he missed a couple weeks. So to me, I don't know what happened to the offense. It's fallen apart a little bit. They've had some weird injuries and different things with like Lockett, and they lost Disley, which obviously hurts. But the offense is kind of a question mark at this point. But the defense with Diggs, that kind of makes sense that could have been a big swing for them, right? Going from Tedrick, who's pretty bad, to Diggs, who's, very good and playing maybe the most important position in a Pete Carroll defense, right? That kind of a swing in quality explains a lot of what this defense has done, to me at least, in the past few weeks. So, for me, it's pretty much that simple. If Diggs isn't healthy in that Niners game, I'm not expecting a lot, at least from the defense.
Yeah. I mean, I think, look, what it takes to slow the 49ers is definitely being able to put the game more on Jimmy Garoppolo's shoulders and stop the run game. And the way that the Seahawks stopped the run game last time was great defensive line play from Clowney, from Reed, from Ford. I think those guys you can feel good about. I think the linebackers played well in that game as well. I thought that there's a chance for that to get back there. But then it also was being sound in the secondary, and Diggs was a huge part of that game. And if you're going to be down Diggs and potentially down Shaquille Griffin, I just think the 49ers are the best team in football. I've said that pretty consistently, and I think you have to play wonderfully with your best players available. If you're missing those guys, I think it becomes pretty tough. I think it becomes really tough.
And to add on top of what both of you guys said, the way Kyle Shanahan plays and calls games, it's really important to be able to like diagnose different looks and not get tricked. And they do a lot of misdirection and runs off the same look and play action. Someone like Barton today, who was really struggling to diagnose what McCaffrey was doing. And if you have to take out Diggs, who not only is maybe their best player defensively right now, he's also one of their like smartest. And Pete always talks about how well he was coached in Detroit. And going from him to a Blair or a Delano Hill, that might be a glaring hole in the defense and what it does to McDougald. And against that offense, that is so important, being able to be like a veteran and being able to, and Clowney did it so well in that last game. And if you take out Clowney or you take out Diggs and Bobby potentially, that's a really big problem for them.
So what else is standing out to you guys? I mean, obviously the Seahawks let the Panthers back into this game. Did play calling, bother you at all? Anything that you saw that was positive on play calling that you want to mention?
I mean, they really did stay pretty aggressive throughout the game. I mean, the offense wasn't clicking at all in the second half for the most part, but it wasn't like they just, tried to run. They weren't just running 3 times or doing, well, they might have been doing a little bit of run pass, but like in the situation that was pretty understandable. But they didn't seem afraid to pass. And so I think that that's probably really a positive, actually, even though the offense, looked considerably worse in the second half. And we've seen that pretty consistently since, early in the year, they had a couple games where they got way too conservative. And then since then, like that Browns game, right, where we got excited because they passed on that 3rd down to seal the game. And I think that that's been a pretty consistent scene for them, that they still want to play the way they want to play, but they are clearly not looking to just completely take their foot off the gas.
Yeah, one thing I'd ask about, or I'd mention, I guess, from a playoff perspective, I think things went relatively well for the Seahawks today. I think Green Bay winning is actually a good thing if you want to keep the number 1 seed in play, because if Green Bay wins out and the Saints win out and the Seahawks win out, then the Seahawks get number 1 seed. So Green Bay had a close game against Chicago. They won that. They're going to have to beat the Vikings still. That's their tough game that they've got left. Right now, Minnesota's beating the Chargers 9-3. I don't know how much that helps or hurts. If the LA Rams lose today in Dallas, then I think the Seahawks clinch a playoff spot, if I'm remembering correctly. I think either if the Rams or the Vikings lose, the Seahawks clinch a playoff spot. So those are 2 things to watch. I think that that's most of what we want to cover today, guys. Anything else you want to bring up before we wrap on really the Seahawks just doing what they had to do to get this victory on the road?
Jason Myers still sucks.
Oh,
yeah. Imagine they lose that game by 1 point.
Yep.
Oh my God.
Yep. Totally agree. All right. Final words, Nathan Ernst.
They won. Yay. 11-3. Hey.
Final words, Jeff Simmons.
Please get healthy defensively. They can't afford 6 injuries right now, and probably their 6 most important players if you ranked 1 to 6.
Yeah, I'll end with 11-3 is great. 7-1 on the road is great. I think they need to be playing for the 49ers game. That's something fans hate to hear. I think if they need to rest guys and take a risk that they lose the Cardinals game, then they should do that. Because honestly, if they win the Cardinals game and they don't have healthy players available for the 49ers game, it won't have mattered. Some people would see the risk profile differently. They would say win the card, assuming that the Seahawks don't clinch the playoffs today. They'll say go win the Cardinals game and clinch a playoff spot. I get it. I obviously want them to win that game, but I want them to win a Super Bowl, and I want them to get the top seed, and I want the best seed they can possibly get in home field. So to me, it is, get Clowney, get Ansah, get Bobby, get Quandre, get Shaquille, get those guys as healthy as you possibly can. And if you have to put it on Russell's shoulders again, he's shown that he can do that. And if you have to win a close game against a bad team again, then go do that. So let's go see that happen. Ideally, it'll be a not so close game, but division games tend to find their way towards a 1-score game. So, all right, guys. And thank you guys for tuning in. If you haven't already, please join up at patreon.com/hawkblogger. And subscribe on YouTube. You should be able to see the button click right now. Leave a like would be great. Any comments, any reviews, all that stuff's great. You can find us on Spotify, Google Play, or the Apple iTunes Store as well. So with that, going to say good afternoon and good evening for those folks on the East Coast, and go Hawks.